Two friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two friends just made a podcast. It's called Culture Bucket. Two friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two friends just made a podcast. Culture Bucket, Georgia and Alex.
Hello all and welcome back to the universe's best, greatest, most favourite podcast, Culture Bucket, where two great, good, best friends talk all things popular culture every single week. This week is a great episode. It's episode number 121. I hope you were with us last time for episode 120, the big celebration. It's all downhill from here, but we'll be with you. We'll stay with you. We're not going anywhere. So please do continue to download and listen and tell your friends about us and review us on everywhere you can, such as Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music and etc., Apple Podcasts even. Go and rate and review us and do all of those awesome, cool, good things and tell people about us. Find a link to our link tree in the show notes for this and every episode, where with links to all our social media pages if you'd like to contact us and give us some lists of your own and tell us what you think about some of the stuff we've been talking about. And there is also a link there to buy us a coffee if you would like to support us any further. That would be appreciated as well. But today, episode 121 is a good one because we are excited to be talking about the second season of one of our favourite TV shows, one of our most beloved TV shows, and that show is, of course, The Bear. The stressful and upsetting tale of Kami and his attempt to run a restaurant in Chicago.
Yes. Did you present us,
I don't care
George?
about that anymore. We're past 120. If you don't know who we are by now, then get effed. I'm George. And with me is my host, Alex. Hi, Alex.
Hi, George.
To talk
Hi,
about
everyone.
The Bear. Alex.
Yes.
30 seconds, no more than 30 seconds. What happened in
God.
season 1 of The Bear? Where are we as season 2 begins?
People meet. Somebody dies. Kami's brother dies. He comes to save the restaurant. He meets the people that work in the restaurant, and there is a new person that joins, Sydney. They try to make this restaurant work. It's not really working. Tensions are high, but then, they start getting to know each other. And at the end, he finds money in tomato tins.
Yes, he's wondering all throughout the season, why was his brother buying such small tins of tomatoes? It's cheaper to buy the big tins. It's because he was taking out the sauce and hiding money in there.
Yes, and it's all set in the Beef, which is this restaurant.
But as... go on.
Not much outside. Not much happens outside.
No, it's
the
pretty
Beef.
much all in the Beef. But as season 1 ends, the Beef shuts down, and we get a sign telling us that coming soon, it's The Bear.
The Bear.
Yeah, and we get a bit more backstory on that in this season, which I like.
Yeah, this season is good because there's definitely episodes where we get to know the characters a bit better, singularly outside of the restaurant.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is really incredible because their stories are all really interesting and sad but great. So
what did you so we'll talk about it more as we go through, but give me a headline view. Season 2, what did you think?
Season 2, I can't believe they managed to make something that they managed to create a season that is as good, if not a little bit better than the first season. I didn't think that you could topple the first season, but the development of the characters and us getting to know them better and getting to know what their goals are, and also the evolution of characters in season 2 is incredible. And just season 2 is amazing. It's so good. The first episode, I was a little bit like, I was a bit skeptical. Is it going to be as good? And it starts very slowly, the second season.
Yeah, I thought the first 2 or 3 episodes were a little bit samey.
Yeah, but I think it needed that to then arrive to then become the crazy stuff that happens.
Yeah, because it's a lot of setup, isn't it,
later.
for what's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So the overarching plot of season 2 is this attempt to open up as a fine dining restaurant, the Bear, and to get all the staff and the building itself prepped and ready to make this transition into a different kind of restaurant. And yeah, it starts off feeling like it's going to be very clinically just about that process of building the restaurant into where it needs to be. But then at a certain point in the season, and it happens early on, I think episode 2 is almost Sydney's episode, but you don't realise it when you watch it. But then over the course of the season, a lot of the characters kind of get their own episode with some character development and growth for them. In a way that almost feels like, because Sydney gets this focus at the start of the season, in the second half of the season, especially like episode 6 that she doesn't appear in at all, Sydney almost takes a bit of a backseat until she comes back in the last couple. It's an interesting structure to the season, but I'm with you. I thought that it was amazing. I really loved season 2 of The Bear. I think it's almost a shame that Disney released it all in one go, because some of the episodes really feel like they need time to breathe, and if it had come out like one a week, some of the episodes I think would have probably benefited from that, and maybe the season as a whole. But overall, pretty awesome. So we've got all our returning characters coming back to say hello again. Of course, Carmi, played by Jeremy Allen White, who is absolutely wonderful. He previously had spent like a decade or over a decade starring in Shameless, which I've never watched, so I'd never really seen him in anything before, but he continues to just be fantastic in this. Ebon Moss-Bachrach as Richie.
Amazing.
Thought you were making like a disgusted noise then. I was gonna.
No, because I told you from last season that I had a soft spot for Richie because I felt his anger was more. He's such a complex character, and in this season he just proves himself to be an incredible character. Even at the beginning, you texted me saying I hated him from the first 2 episodes. I felt sorry for him the first 2 episodes because I think he could do so much more.
I definitely hated him in the first couple of episodes of this season, but when he gets his time to shine later on in the series, it's one of the most.
I cried. I cried
because they've put that work in. They've put that real character work into getting you to understand Richie, and then when he does have wins and achieves things and changes, like genuinely changes as a person, it just means so much. It's one of the big kind of reasons why this show is so good. Ayo Edebiri as Sydney. Yes. She was great in season 1. She continues to be great in season 2. I think maybe of the core characters, the least served in this season.
What do you mean?
I just feel like she has like one drama in this series, and it's that her dad doesn't fully believe in her ambition. Her other big drama is more linked to Carmi's journey and her kind of needing him and him not being there as much for her. It's less about her, that bit. It's more about Carmi and what it the places it leads him to. And I just felt like Ayo Edebiri is so good, and I loved her so much in season 1. She sort of plays the same note quite a lot in this season, especially after early on she has a couple of really big focuses, and then kind of she pops up in episodes to kind of complain that Carmi's not doing enough and not pulling his weight. And I just feel like it's okay, but season 3 is hopefully coming, and I hope that we get more time with Sydney.
Like, I feel the same for both Carmi and Sydney. Like, in this, they're so focused on Sydney's focused on her Michelin star, and Carmi's focused on proving something, which we're still not really sure what it is. I feel like they are the ones that have made the less evolution as characters, and they stayed pretty much the same. And I felt like it was good because they just stuck. They're still stuck.
Yeah, that's true.
And they've been stuck the entire season. Whilst Carmi had a little bit of a output of this with his new love interest, Claire. I feel like there's, by the end of this season 2, Carmi and Sydney are the same. They haven't been able to. This restaurant has not made them better
No.
or worse,
No.
or they're just back in. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a way to kind of then develop those characters in a different way, or
We'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see what happens with season
Yeah.
2. I'm not saying it's not like a big critique. I just I really like Ayo Dabiri, and
Yeah.
I want more Ayo Dabiri always.
Absolutely.
That
I love when she goes, I think it's episode 2, when she goes to all those restaurants and she tries all the food.
real restaurants, real
Yes,
chefs.
which I saved. I have them. So if I ever go to Chicago, I'm going to go and eat them.
So cool. And it also,
Yeah.
I think it's the episode that takes a bit of time to almost honour the restaurants that we lost
Yes.
through COVID in Chicago.
Yes.
Like, it really
Yeah.
cares about where it's set, this show. And I think that's another
Yeah.
big kind of bonus to it. Okay, Lionel Boyce plays Marcus, returning, the pastry chef. We will talk more about Marcus when we go episode
Yes.
specific, because he gets almost a full episode to himself, and it is
Yes. I
like
love
a
that
warm
episode.
loaf of bread to the soul.
Oh,
It is
Such
wonderful.
a good episode.
Lisa Cole-Zayas as Tina.
Amazing.
Her journey in this season is great.
Yeah.
She's in the background a little bit more than some of the other characters, but again, like the moment when Sid asks her to be the sous chef is
Yeah.
amazing. Like and that, like, I don't know if I've ever seen Lisa Cole-Zayas in anything else before, but like the way her internal emotions play out on her face without the need for, like, she's a master. She's so good. Abby Elliott plays Sugar,
Yes.
Carmi's sister and Michael's sister. She was like a pretty small role in season 1.
Yeah.
Is much more in season 2, a main character throughout season 2,
And she becomes the mum.
yeah, she
Don't
becomes
tell Mum.
pregnant, and you learn throughout. I think you learn stuff in season 2 that makes you realise how daunting the thought of being a mother must be to her. We'll talk more about that later. I'm so happy that she has a bigger role in this season, because she's really, really good. She's a really warm presence. She's really funny when she needs to be.
Yeah.
And, getting a bit more of Carmi's family and seeing how the interplay there and the dynamics work there is really good. And her relationship with Sydney is great. When Sydney makes her an omelette, it's just marvellous. So yeah, I'm really happy that she's in it more. And then also, recurring in season 1, but main character in season 2, Matty Matheson as Fack.
Yes. We needed Fack.
Yeah, we needed much more Fack. The only professional chef in the cast who never does any cooking, which I love. And he's brilliant, and I think some of that kind of boredom you might feel through watching the first couple of episodes where they are just building this new restaurant is alleviated by having much more of a presence with him there, and him and Richie playing off each other, arguing over how to build this restaurant.
So funny.
Is really funny. And then again, there's a flashback episode we'll talk about more later, but him and his brother in that episode are bizarre.
Yes.
Really enjoyable. And that's it for sort of main characters. And the only big new character we get in this season, I think, is Molly Gordon as Claire.
Yes.
There's a couple of us, like there's a couple of line cooks they hire and a couple of other people, but Claire is kind of the big addition to season 2. And a controversial character. She turns up as a love interest for Carmi, and she's there throughout the season. And I love Molly Gordon. She's very good in Booksmart. I talked about Theatre Camp last week, which she co-wrote and co-directed, and is mega good. And she's so funny in it. And she's really great here. She really works really well, I think, as people have criticised the character online for being a bit of a manic pixie dream girl trope, which is the idea that she exists to serve the needs of the main character and isn't kind of an internal character of her own. Which I can see a little bit, because she does kind of exist largely to create this like rift between Sid and Calm about where Calm's kind of focus is. But
if she wasn't a character that was in Calm's life since a very young age, like even in episode 6 where they talk about her, so this character has been part of the family, part of this group of family for a very long time. If she hadn't been that kind of person, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't think she's there to serve Kami. I think she's there because she likes Kami. She genuinely likes him.
Yeah, and I'd happily, as a criticism, give us more of her life in season 3. Then I'd happily see that.
Yeah,
because I think Molly Gordon is such a warm presence on screen that. Yeah, she's really good. And that first meeting where they meet in that sort of off-license newsagent place was one of those moments where I was watching and I was like, this show is so unlike any other show, and it's so cinematic because that whole meeting between them is done in these extreme close-ups of them stood next to this fridge, and the lighting is beautiful and the cinematography is gorgeous, and the way that they're being photographed is just masterful, and I just adore that this show doesn't just block out the scenes, put the camera there, put the actors in front of the camera, and then get them to. They really think carefully about how they're filming these sequences, even for a simple thing where two characters are having a discussion, and it is why this show is so good. So yeah, Claire is great.
Let's not forget about Ibrahim. I know he hasn't got a big role, but played by Edwin Lee Gibson, he goes to school with Tina, and I think that kind of juxtaposes. He goes to culinary school with Tina, and I think he's really good at showing like he's this, elder, like advanced with age guy. And in the culinary school, the chef goes, "Oh, have you found your PDF?" And he just says where they can find their lessons, which would be in a Zoom, in a PDF, and you can see how difficult it might be for somebody that doesn't trust themselves and is a bit older to not being able to really change because it's complicated and scary. And I found that moment like, oh my God, I wonder, like, and Ibrahim then leaves the culinary school because he can't cope. And kind of him and Tina started the same, but Tina elevated herself by trying, and Ibrahim just couldn't do it. In a way, it's kind of like a good, like, and it showed how their friendship, how important their friendship was, which you didn't really see it in season 1.
Yeah, that's true.
Like she goes, I've never gone a day without speaking to you. And then because he disappeared, I was like, oh, it's kind of, I quite liked that between them.
Yeah, I like that between them. I felt like the show forgot about him a little bit because he does end up coming back and he goes on a little journey, and you see him trying to do his training, and he's going to man the sandwich window in the.
Yeah.
But then there's a couple of lines about how they can't actually run that sandwich window because they don't have the right license or something. And then he's not really in like the last 2 episodes, or definitely not in the last episode.
I don't know who's in the last episode. I'm not sure, but it's...
You've seen it, right?
Yeah, but it's just a bit stressful.
It is stressful. So yeah, hopefully he gets a bit more of a story next season. But no, he is good. It's good to mention him. Do you want to have a little, just brief chat about the different episodes and what we found interested in them?
Definitely.
So episode 1 is called Beef. Each episode is named after some food, and the first one is Beef, the previous name of the restaurant. And in Beef, let's see, I'll quickly read this. Carmi and Sydney begin to develop a menu for the bear and bring in Natalie as project manager for renovations. Needing additional funds, they ask Cicero, played by Oliver Platt, returning from season 1, a rich friend of the family, for a $500,000 loan. He agrees with the condition that if it is not paid back in 18 months, he can take ownership of the property, estimated to be worth $2 million. They develop a plan to open in 3 months. So sets the stakes pretty high straight away. And Cicero's a really interesting character because we, again, throughout the season, we learn that he is very close. He is a member of the family, really. Yeah. But he is such a businessman as well. Like he will just take it from under them, and he won't like it, but he will do it. If he needs to. And there are some nice moments of him throughout the season that we'll talk about when we get to them. But this episode was sort of setting the table. It didn't blow me away, but
it was kind of a continuation of season 1. It was kind of like a continuation, and then there was some funny bits like Kami can't count, so which then it will like bite him in the ass by the last episode.
Yes, it will.
But he can't count. He's always like 1 off or 100 off or 200 off. He's never, and that's quite funny because he's supposed to be on the ball and he's supposed to be this chef, but he's just bad with numbers.
He's a bit all over the place all the time. I found a bit of trivia for this episode. Now, I didn't notice this, but you can tell me if you did. Apparently Richie refers to a book where a man is cut off by his friends. And that apparently is a reference to Colourless Tsukuru Tazaki and His Years of Pilgrimage by Haruki Murakami.
Haruki Murakami, yeah. Oh.
I didn't notice that, but apparently
No, I
Richie
didn't
reads Murakami, which is another reason to
I love him.
to love him. So yeah, episode 1, not a showstopper,
No.
but a good episode.
It was just a good way to say hello again, I think. It was just like, hi guys, I missed you. Yeah. Thank you for coming back.
Episode 2 is called Pasta. It ups the tension because construction delays occur, including the discovery of a mould problem. I love the bit where Richie is like, look, if there was a mould problem, this whole ceiling would collapse. Everything falls down on top of him. You really feel bad for Richie in the first. He's so struggling to find what his place is going to be in this new version of reality. And, you know, he gets there over the course of the season, but early on, he is very difficult. And he does, you know, he can be quite hard to like at times because he behaves like a child who's been told he can't have what he wants. Yeah. And he just lashes out and throws all his toys out the pram and, Sydney has dinner with her father, who expresses his concerns about her choice to open a restaurant. With Sydney now the chef de cuisine, she asks Tina to be a sous chef, to the latter's delight. She sends Tina and Ebra to culinary school, which we talked about. Meanwhile, Carmi reconnects with his childhood friend Claire, now a resident in emergency medicine, but purposely gives her a wrong number. And did you know that if you pay close attention, you can see immediately that he's given her the wrong number? Because early in the episode, he reads out his number to the fridge repairman, and that will come back, as 773-555-0901, but then when he gives it to Claire, it's 0902.
Yes. Self-sabotaging, Carmi. Self-sabotaging.
Claire's good.
Why?
Claire is good.
Yes. But he knows that he's not good.
And Claire isn't making massive demands of his time.
No.
I don't think. I mean, there's that one where she makes him go to the... No, it's fine. No, she's not making huge demands on his time. I don't know.
No, yeah. We found out a little bit more about Sid in this episode. We found out that her mother has passed away, and she has a really great kind of relationship with her dad.
Yeah,
her dad is worried about her, you know, of course, and but you know that's what parents are for. Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't really want her to be doing what she's doing, but he doesn't like stand in her way. He just makes because also she's a nervous person. Like she gets like the stress gets to her, as we can see in the last episode. I think that was a pretty well, good acting.
Yeah, definitely. Again, episode 2, a bit of a continuation of episode 1. I think the most important thing it's doing is introducing Claire, who will go on to be a pretty important character throughout the rest of the season. But yeah, good episode.
Yes, and you can see that Kami still can't feel anything really. Like he's just a bit, yeah.
But we get into episode 3, and this is probably the biggest Sydney-centric episode. It's called Sunday. We've got Kami continues to attend Al-Anon meetings where he discusses his struggle to find time for leisure and enjoyment, setting up the problem between him and Claire there. He and Sydney prepare their menu but realise they have to get out of their routine and sample food at other restaurants. It's really funny, those scenes where they're trying different dishes and they look amazing and they're putting all this effort in, and then they taste it and they're like, oh God, no, awful.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yeah. What are we doing?
Yes.
So
too much salt.
Yeah, exactly. So they need to go to these other restaurants and sample this other food. But Kami spends time with Claire instead of going with Sydney. So she goes to restaurants around the city to sample dishes. Gathering inspiration, she also receives feedback from a former colleague who stresses the importance of having a business partner she can trust. Sydney returns to the bar and becomes upset when she discovers Kami has been making decisions without consulting her.
This was a good episode.
Yeah.
I loved the food in it. There was lots of focus on the food.
Lots of focus on the food and lots of focus on real places in Chicago, which is nice. That Sydney goes and visits. And is it this episode where Sydney tries to poach some workers from the back of a restaurant?
Yes.
Very funny moment.
Yeah. And she eats this banana split, which I think that's why they call it Sunday, but they probably call it banana Sunday. And I've always, you know me and banana desserts. You remember in Japan, I used to be so weird about those bananas on sticks. But that banana sundae looked incredible.
Yeah, man.
It looks so good.
The banana sundae.
Yes, that's a good episode.
It is.
I liked it.
But it's followed by episode 4, Honeydew, which I think is the first, big gangbusters memorable episode of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
The first one that feels different from season 1.
Yeah.
In episode 4, 2 months before the planned opening, Carmi learns from Natalie that she's pregnant. Richie, in fact, continues to lead construction efforts while Sydney begins screening new employees. Meanwhile, and here's our focus for the episode, Marcus is tasked with developing 3 unique desserts for the bear. He temporarily leaves his terminally ill mother to travel to Copenhagen to learn from Luca, a skilled pastry chef. And the two quickly form a kinship. Luca, by the way, played by Will Poulter in the first of the really big, massive guest roles that will come thick and fast. Will Poulter's so good in this episode.
So good.
Luca recounts being humbled about his level of talent after working with a more skilled chef, implied to be and later confirmed to be Carmi, and how he has since found a better balance between honing his craft and appreciating life outside the kitchen. Marcus is inspired by the experience while growing feelings for Sydney.
Growing. Yeah.
What?
I didn't think about the growing feelings for Sydney in this episode. Like, she says, "I miss you," and I think it's kind of like a friendship thing. But then I don't know. I didn't find that. Of course, later we see.
I definitely found it in this episode, but more from his side than her side.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a precious soul.
Precious.
Is Marcus.
Yes.
This episode is really brilliant. I really love it. I love the scenes of him on that. He's living on that boat. He's been told he has to feed the cat, but he never sees the cat. And there's a great bit in a later episode that's a flashback where Carmi's just come back from Copenhagen, and Carmi mentions that he's been feeding an invisible cat, and just the world feels so complete, which I really love. Those scenes that are just Will Poulter and Marcus talking, Luca and Marcus talking about their lives and stuff
in the kitchen,
and making food are just really beautifully shot and written and acted and performed, and it's good.
And you have a feeling before that the Luca is going to be really hard on Marcus, but he's not, and he's really good to Marcus, and you feel they could go either way. The Luca is just going to be like, "No, Marcus, you suck," and like chefs, but instead he's really great with him, and I really like that. It was unexpected for me for Luca to be nice to him.
But the bear ends up taking that direction more often than not. I feel like it ends up being about people supporting each other more than it is about people tearing each other down. But that's not necessarily the experiences that Carmi has had in the past, as we see from what he used to work with. But Honeydew is a really brilliant episode.
Oh, it's wonderful.
It's a.
I want to go to Copenhagen now.
It definitely makes you want to go to Copenhagen. And we'll get at least 1 or 2 more episodes like it over the rest of the season. But episode 5 returns to what we're a bit more used to. It's called Pop, and this one really focuses on Carmi and Claire. Sydney continues developing the menu with help from Tina, who is thriving in culinary school, although Tina is troubled when Ebra stops attending. Natalie convinces Cicero to expedite permit applications. Claire accompanies Carmi to drop off. By the way, that's a lot of stuff that I struggle to pay too much attention to. There's a lot of discussion of permits and licenses and things like that, and it all just goes over your head a little bit. But
which is crazy though. Just to open a restaurant, you need all of this. Is like, how can anybody just open a restaurant? You
can't. It seems impossible.
Impossible and stressful.
Yep. Claire accompanies Carmi to drop off a liquor license application where the pair bond. She convinces him to accompany her to a party where Carmi realises Claire represents the release and enjoyment he has been searching for. I don't know if he thinks that in his head, but that's what someone's written here.
Yeah.
After the party, Carmi takes Claire to see the restaurant, walking in on an argument about Richie stealing electricity from a neighbouring building. I can't remember what he calls it, but it's very not good.
Oh, it's called it's something that is not very good. It's very anti-Semitic.
Yeah. When the restaurant clears, Carmi and Claire share their first kiss. Yes, what did you think of this episode?
It kind of has. Whilst other like in season 1, you had episodes that were like super like, this was kind of like had moments of calm and stress, and it was fun to go to a adults party.
Yep.
That looked exactly like high school party in any film.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool. And Kami being not a chef anymore and being a human being outside of the bear.
Yeah, it's nice to see that.
Yeah, and Claire, and that's the thing that I think that's why I like Claire, because Claire knows where Kami comes from, which we're going to find out in episode 6, and she knows the kind of struggle that him and his family have gone through and is going through, and in a way she treats him in a way to not feel like he feels stressed, because she really likes him and she knows his background. And I think she hasn't got enough. I don't understand why people wouldn't like her, because even in episode I think it's in the last episode when she shares a moment with Richie, is really lovely, and you can see how much history is between all of these characters that we still haven't seen. So with this episode, you see her that she's trying to help Kami just being normal and a human.
Yeah, man, I agree. Yeah, and
that first kiss was pretty steamy.
Yeah, man.
Oh my god!
But after the relative normality and slight calmness of episode 5, we get into episode 6.
Yes, and I think that we needed that.
Yeah.
Wait a second. We needed that calm episode to then enter the palpitation land of episode 6.
Episode 6 is long. It's over an hour long, this episode.
I was like, when is this episode going to finish? I need it to finish. I can't handle this anymore.
Yeah, I'll read out the plot and then we can talk about it. This is a big episode. So, approximately 5 years before the bear is set to open. I love the way it does that. It just says 5 years before opening. It sets everything in relation to when the bear is going to open, which is important, I think. Kami returns from Copenhagen to spend Christmas with his family and friends. Michael and Kami warn Natalie not to ask their alcoholic and volatile mother, Donna, about her mental state. Donna drunkenly prepares a meal based on the Feast of the Seven Fishes. Had you heard of the Feast of the Seven Fishes before? It's an Italian-American tradition, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no.
Richie asks Cicero for a job, which Cicero later grants him. Kami's cousin Michelle encourages him to stay with her in New York to pursue his career, noticing how the dysfunction in his family weighs on him. As they await dinner, the group debates the origin of the Seven Fishes tradition. Lee, Donna's on and off boyfriend, whom Michael resents, offers his interpretation, but an intoxicated Michael repeatedly throws forks at him. Natalie asks an upset Donna if she's okay. Donna has an emotional outburst and leaves. Michael throws another fork at Lee when he scorns Donna's behaviour and a fight nearly occurs, only to be interrupted when Donna crashes her car into the dining room.
Oh my god.
Quite the way to end an episode of television. So, a couple of things. First of all, this doesn't mention that Donna, the mama,
yeah,
the mother,
the mama,
Donna is played by Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Lee is played by Bob Odenkirk.
Yes. Never hated Bob Odenkirk ever like this in my life.
Michelle, Kami's cousin, is played by Sarah Paulson.
Yes.
Her husband, whose character's name is forgotten, is played by John Mulaney, who almost feels like he was allowed to improvise his dialogue in this episode. He is hysterically funny every time he's on screen. There's so much, like, this plot synopsis mentions the important things, but there's so, like, the thing that doesn't come through is how stressful this episode is, because it's just moving constantly at 100 miles an hour. It doesn't even mention Richie. We meet Richie's partner in this, played by Gillian Jacobs. Incredible.
Amazing.
She's wearing a Taylor Swift 1989 album t-shirt, which I clocked pretty quickly, which is important. Again, just a beautiful bit of character development. Sets up something quite important for a later episode. Incredible. Like, truly an amazing hour of television, hour and a bit of television. There's too much to describe. I love Fack and his brother in this episode as they're attempting to get first Cicero to invest in their idea to buy baseball cards on eBay. and sell them
Yes.
for profit. As Cicero refuses to invest, but then John Mulaney, there's a great sequence where they explain it to John Mulaney, and John Mulaney's like, I know this isn't going to work, but I'm going to give you the money because you are such good value every year.
Yeah. Every year you could. Yeah. Yeah.
And a pretty phenomenal.
It's everybody talks over each other, and there is such a the mental health in this family is not great, and everybody is stressed.
Donna is a challenging person to have as a mother, it would seem.
Yeah.
The way she treats Natalie is not
terrible.
Not good.
No. And Jamie Lee Curtis does an incredible job of this role. She's incredible.
She's an Oscar winner for a reason.
Yeah. And it's just, this episode just shows you how the worst family meal that you could possibly have.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, with mental health issues, Italian plus mental health issue family meal you can possibly have. Because, it just reminded me of Christmases in my house where all the family was here and it was mental. And it's too much at some point. And the weird thing is, Richie and his partner, Tiffany, seem to have a really nice relationship with each other, like a loving, and they're like, we're not going to be like a family, but then that they're going to divorce.
It's heartbreaking.
And it's really heartbreaking. And you see Kami's brother just...
The bit where Kami gives his brother Michael the plans for the bear, which we see later in season one, and then he walks away, and Michael just breaks down, and it's so sad, and it's so sad because we don't understand Michael, we don't know Michael, and we don't really understand why he, ended up taking his own life. What made him so sad? There's so much more to learn about that character, and played again, by the way, by John Bernthal, who is such a good piece of casting in the role of Michael.
And we don't know why Kami is so obsessed by being a chef and being perfect and doing things that, is it because he wants to be like his brother, or
but he's already
his brother's approval?
Better than his brother. That's the thing. Is he's better. He's already definitely a better chef than his brother, and that's what led his brother to be so upset. But he still wants his brother's approval, and he clearly loves his brother, and it's just, it's heartbreaking, and there's so much we don't know.
I know, and the kitchen where the mother is cooking, is insane because you can it's filthy everywhere. There's tomato sauce everywhere. I don't know if anything is cooked. It's just chaos, absolute chaos.
But somehow Kami is still able to make Sprite. In that kitchen. I love that he just makes Sprite. And Gillian Jacobs is like, this is incredible.
And then Michael throws Uncle League forks, which he deserves. I would have thrown a knife at him. It's just very negative. It's just a very negative household. And everybody knows, but everybody plays along with it because nobody wants to make a fuss.
Well, what can you do? Donna is not something that you can't... By acknowledging Donna, it wouldn't fix the issues with Donna, would it?
Yeah.
What do you do? Well, clearly what they've decided to do by the time the bear rolls around is pretty much cut off contact with her.
Yeah.
And presumably Lee as well, but it's... But Natalie, clearly, we learn later, clearly still is desperate for her mother to be approving of her. Something that seems like her mother just
children
can't
always want their parents' approval. No, it's unfortunate. It's a very unfortunate.
A really good episode. One thing that's worth mentioning is Cicero at one point talks about how important chocolate-covered bananas are to him. But is important for some...
Yeah, it's important to him.
Is sets up a beautiful moment in the final episode.
Yeah. Oh, that moment was so good.
Okay.
And we come to episode 7!
The highest rated episode on IMDb of the season.
Is it?
For good reason. Episode 7 is called Forks. And I'll just read this out. Richie is sent by Kami to Ever, a real restaurant, an upscale fine dining restaurant for the weak as education. Richie is deeply sceptical of the restaurant and annoyed by having to wake up before dawn to meticulously clean forks. After seeing how dedicated the restaurant staff are to their customers, he has a change of heart, becoming enthusiastic and learning to expedite a busy dinner service. At the end of the week, Richie is sad to leave and asks about staying on permanently. Before leaving, he meets the owner, Terry, played by Olivia Colman.
Oh my God, she's everywhere. Yeah. She's everywhere.
Who recounts the origins of the restaurant and how she overcame professional setbacks. Although also, part of the way she overcame professional setbacks is like being left a load of money. Yeah, it's good when when you can have that. Terry assures Richie that he has good people skills and that Carmi believes in him.
This synopsis does not give credit. No. It's not good enough for this episode.
There's a character in this episode. Hang on. Sarah Ramos. Is it Sarah Ramos? Yeah, Sarah Ramos plays Jessica, the maitre d' at this restaurant. I love her. She's so good.
Yeah.
Also, a bigger role almost, I think, is Renee Goubet. Yeah, Renee Goubet plays the general manager who kind of shepherds Richie through the episode and takes him on this journey, and he's really good as well. This is a bit like the Honeydew episode with Marcus. This episode really big time focuses on Richie.
Yeah, and whilst Marcus knows that the opportunity to work in Copenhagen is great for him to learn, Richie thinks that Carmi sent him to this restaurant to get rid of him because he doesn't want Richie around.
Yeah, he wants Richie to see how difficult it's going to be and leave.
Yeah. And so, but then you go like, come on, Richie, it's a great opportunity, but he's still fighting against the fact that he feels useless.
But I think what turns him on it is when he attends that meeting where they're discussing the plan for that evening's seating, and especially when they talk about the teachers who have been saving up for years to go and have always wanted to eat at a Michelin-starred restaurant.
Yeah,
and they say we're not going to charge them for this meal. It's it's going to be on the house, and I think you can see from that moment Richie and the other things they're talking about. Richie starts to see how important it is to these people that they give their customers the most incredible evening that they've ever had, kind of thing, and that's why they demand so much of each other. And it's a beautiful. I don't think it's a healthy working environment, to be clear. Anyway, you see from this meeting that Richie is like starting to be turned around, and then he is allowed to assist in that evening's seating, and he gets into it, and you see him growing and changing and coming to terms with it. And there's that brilliant bit where he hears about this table that have complained that they've come to Chicago and not had the opportunity to have deep dish pizza, and they send him to go and get a deep dish pizza, and they plate up this pizza in the style of the restaurant, and he asks if he can deliver it to the table. And I was so, when that moment was happening and he was taking this meal out,
I was like, that plate is going to fall. Something bad is going to happen. I was like,
don't mess it up. He's going to mess it up. He's going to mess it up. Yeah. And he's still quite rough around the edges, so he's talking to them probably in a way that no other member of staff in the restaurant have spoken to him. And I was like, just be careful. But he pulls it off, and he sees how much the family loves it, and he gets completely into it. And it's amazing. And
it's so good.
He what I love as well is not just that he becomes accepting of the restaurant and why they do what they do, but the staff there fall in love with him as well. And you see that there's a bit where they're quizzing him on the restaurant and he's answering all the questions, and they're so happy and proud of him, and they want him to stay. It's pretty good.
And then there's again Taylor Swift this summer has just had to be in the best TV shows, and there's a beautiful scene where Richie's really proud of himself and he's just singing Love Story.
Yeah. But is it also in this episode where he reveals that he got tickets to Taylor Swift? Or was that in
everybody gets tickets to Taylor Swift but me.
Yeah, I was really nervous it was going to reveal that he got like fake tickets or something.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing. This episode, because you have this expectations of Richie that just be a fuck up.
Yeah.
It just takes everything off, because like, oh, I thought he was gonna drop the plate. I thought he was gonna leave the restaurant. No, everything goes well for Richie.
But he still
which is,
gets knocked back, but he keeps going, which I like. Because like in a future episode, he wants Gillian Jig. What's his Tiffany? Is she called?
Tiffany.
You know, he kind of, you can tell he kind of hopes that by getting these Taylor Swift tickets, it might start a bit of a reunion. Because we know from the fact she was wearing that Taylor Swift t-shirt in episode 6 that she also is a fan of Taylor Swift. So I think he's got these tickets hoping, to move things back to where they were, but he discovers that Tiffany is now engaged, which is in a later episode. But the journey of Richie is the ability to start taking knocks, but dealing with them and not, just kind of breaking down and throwing all his toys away. Yeah, and that scene where he's talking to Terry is really lovely, and
I really like that scene. I thought, because you imagine like a head chef to be just not very nice, but instead she's lovely, and is Olivia Colman, so another surprise cameo, and just great. And Richie starts believing in himself. Oh, it's such a good episode.
Couple of bits of trivia.
Go.
The restaurant in this episode is based on the Chicago restaurant Ever. Ever's head chef Curtis Duffy had his hands shot plating the dishes served in the episode.
Okay.
And apparently the restaurant closed for a week during filming, which was shocking to me, because if this is truly like a Michelin-starred restaurant, that's an expensive thing to shut a restaurant for a week. And they must have, reservations dating way into the future and stuff. So, yeah, impressive. And also, the deep dish pizza sequence bears a striking similarity to a famed service industry anecdote by Will Guidara, American restaurateur and author of Unreasonable Hospitality. In 2010, Guidara was running 11 Madison Park, one of New York's premier fine dining destinations, and overheard a table lament the fact that despite trying various top eateries on the trip, they had not gotten a classic New York dirty water hot dog. Guidara rushed out to a nearby cart and had the chef plate it and presented it to the delighted guests.
Nice.
So that's a kind of a moment from reality, which is quite nice. Right, so should we move on to episode 8? Yes. Episode 8 and 9 sort of form a pair. Episode 8 is called Bolognese. Oh no, episode 9 and 10. I keep thinking there's 9 episodes, there's 10 episodes. Episode 8 does not form a pair of episode 9. Anyway, episode 8 is called Bolognese. 10 days before opening, so we're getting pretty close. Carmi and Sydney are panicking over their inability to pass the fire suppression test. Ebba returns, reconciles with Tina and agrees to take over the restaurant takeout sandwich window, which we discussed earlier. Richie returns with a newfound sense of purpose, and Marcus returns from Copenhagen with a new dessert menu. Richie apologises to Natalie for the way he has treated her, a lovely scene.
Yes, so lovely.
Yeah, and they begin interviewing front of house candidates. Is it in this episode as the scene where he's moved the fork and he won't hire that person because they didn't move the fork, and he's like, I would just be staring at that fork, I would have to check. He's really like, he's found his,
and he's wearing a suit now. He's always wearing a suit.
Pretty good in a suit as well.
And everybody goes, "You're wearing a suit." It's like, that's me now.
I love that he's not embarrassed or ashamed about change either. Like, he's changed, and he's not nervous or ashamed to show his new change to the rest of them, which is great. Sydney begins to see Claire as a threat to Carmi's focus. Fack realises that Michael disabled the fire suppression system when he tried to commit insurance fraud by burning down the restaurant. Fack fixes it in time for the test, and they pass, allowing the restaurant to open. Carmi, realising he loves Claire, makes her dinner. A good episode.
Yes.
Sort of, again, setting stuff up for the end of the series. But it is nice to see these changes and live in these kind of, see these characters having moved forward a little bit and be a bit ready to get going. And there's a lovely bit at the start where Richie enters the restaurant in his suit, and then him and Carmi quote the Blues Brothers, which I'm a big fan of.
Yes.
Yeah, that's about it, really. It's a good episode, though. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a good episode. Yeah. I enjoy the fact that, Richie didn't go back to being himself, his old self, but a new Richie, improved.
They're happy to move things forwards in this show, which I like.
Yes.
Episode 9 is called Omelette.
Yes.
The bear is set for its soft opening for family and friends only. Sydney feels pressured to impress her father. Carmi begins to second-guess the plans and forgets to have the handle of the walk-in refrigerator replaced. That will be a problem later. Natalie informs Carmi that she's invited their mother. Bad idea. Richie and Natalie see the restaurant is fully booked for 2 weeks but need to increase reservations to stay profitable. They really drive home how difficult it is to run a restaurant in this show. The idea that you can be fully booked for 2 weeks but still be like, we're going to fail. This is not going to work.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's quite realistic, isn't it? Because they don't know.
No, exactly. Cicero delivers the official business license to Carmi. Carmi apologises to Sydney for his lack of focus and gives her a custom chef's coat. A very beautiful moment. Where they fix a table.
Yes, I sent you a picture of that thing. I think those are definitely, like, they've got a nice friendship.
They do, I love it. And with the team prepared and the restaurant ready to launch, Richie opens the bar for business.
Is this the episode where Marcus also asks Sydney to go out for... Was it episode 9? I think that's the
next episode. This is episode 9 that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's episode 9 or 10.
I think it's 10, because isn't it in the middle of service? Or does...
Yeah, maybe. I think it was before this one, because this episode, Omelette, ends at the end, just before they open. Yeah. So I wonder if he says something just before they open. But yeah, so Marcus says something to Sydney and Sydney freaks out.
Yeah, Sydney can't handle...
Sydney can't handle much, can she?
She's very on edge.
That's what I was thinking. What was they... Throughout the season, I was thinking, this menu is creating so much stress for both of them. Why do they not make something simpler? You know, it doesn't have to be all of this elaborate stuff. You know, they left the Michelin restaurant life to make something more them. So I was wondering if their menu was a little bit too complicated.
I don't know. They're both high level chefs. They want to aim for the Michelin star. No, I don't know. It is a complicated menu, but that's the aim, isn't it? To serve. Yeah. To serve something complex and good. Yeah, I like the scene where she makes an omelette for Natalie.
Yes, that's really lovely.
It's really lovely. She put crisps on top of the omelette. What an interesting idea.
I'm going to do that next time I make an omelette.
And then that sets us up for episode 10, which is quite a finale. Episode 10 is called, obviously, The Bear.
The Bear.
On Family and Friends Night, Richie runs the front of house while Sydney runs the kitchen. Issues begin to mount. The restaurant runs out of forks. Foreshadowed.
Why? Because Carmi cannot count.
Yep. Sydney and Marcus are forced to assist when a line cook disappears. It's a smoke crack in the alleyway.
Yes.
Not great. And the walk-in refrigerator handle breaks, trapping Carmi inside. Not great as well, and he does not handle it well.
No, not at all.
Absolutely freaks out.
But who saves the day? The last person you would think that would save the day.
Could it be Richie?
Yeah.
Richie successfully takes over expediting. Pete...
But he doesn't take over, he asks.
True.
He asks Sydney, he's like, can I? And then Sydney goes, yes, go.
That's great. Pete, Natalie's husband, sees Donna outside, but she refuses to go in, feeling she does not deserve to witness her children's success.
That was a heartbreaking scene.
It was. Again, a little small feature from Jamie Lee Curtis after the last episode, but really, just really upsetting. And Pete accidentally reveals Natalie's pregnancy to Donna before she leaves, which you can see really hits Jamie Lee Curtis, and she doesn't. I'm sure we'll go back on in season 3. Trapped in the fridge, Carmi spirals into self-loathing and rants about how his relationship with Claire has ruined his focus in the kitchen. Claire overhears him and leaves in tears, which is brutal. And really upsetting. Richie sees her leave and has a heated argument with Carmi through the refrigerator door,
which is an amazing scene, because throughout the when Carmi's in the fridge, everybody, there's like either Carmi in the fridge or the person outside. But in this one, you could see both Carmi and Richie like arguing through the
screen
wall,
is like
and I thought
split,
that
isn't it?
was so good. Yeah,
really good. Carmi is devastated when he plays a missed voicemail from Claire earlier in the day, in which she confesses her love for him. Not originally in the script, apparently. They originally didn't have that moment, and then when they added it in, Molly Gordon, who plays Claire, said she just was like heartbroken. Because it really does twist the knife. Yeah. The service ultimately ends successfully. Marcus receives a gift from Luca, although he misses numerous panicked calls from his mother's nurse.
Oh,
That's going to be, yeah. And Sydney feels stressed yet emboldened by the successful opening night. Some bits that aren't mentioned there. That I love the bit where Richie serves that banana for Cicero.
yes.
Yes. Yeah, pretty nice that he's remembered
Yeah,
that.
because Cicero doesn't want a dessert, but then he's like, no, you're going to have this dessert, and this is banana.
Yeah, and the bit between Sydney and her dad when he kind of says, he realizes that she's done the right thing and that it's amazing.
Yeah,
is really lovely. And that leaves us on waiting for season 3, waiting to find out if the restaurant for real is going to be successful.
Yeah. Is it going to open though? Is it going to open? Is it going to happen though? Because it's the writer's strikes. Is anything going to happen?
It'll be delayed, but I can't see this show with how popular and successful it is, both critically and with audiences. I can't see them not continuing. It would be a devastating shame if it didn't happen because of the strikes. But equally, people are losing their houses, which is worse, and it's the fault of the studios who should just pay people what they deserve and treat people like human beings. So hopefully that happens. June part 2 has been delayed to next year as a result of the strikes.
Yeah.
I don't know what one of us just anyway. So that's kind of the season. We've talked a bit about the guest stars. I don't know if there's anyone we left out. I loved seeing John Mulaney. I think Jamie Lee Curtis puts in the best performance. But I think my favourite face to pop up was John Mulaney because I really like him and he was very, very funny in that episode. Who stood out to you sort of guest star wise?
Just because I love her, Gillian Jacobs. I love her and I'm happy to see her. So I was like, and unexpected us also to be Rich's wife or partner.
Let's hope that her engagement doesn't go well.
Yeah, we don't want her engagement to go well. And also probably from the episode I Need You, Will Poulter. I really like him.
Yeah, Will Poulter is... I like Will Poulter. He isn't very good in Guardians... Well, no, he's good in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but he doesn't get much to do in it. Hopefully we see more from him in Marvel in the future. But yeah, he's great in this episode. Good on Will Poulter. Yeah. So, let's just talk about music a little bit then, because there is some great songs. So, I'm going to go through some of my favourite songs that were featured in this season. Early on, we've got a song called Handshake Drugs by Wilco. Wilco, iconic band from Chicago, so featured quite a lot in the season. A few songs featured in season 1, and they're back in season 2. And incidentally, I'm going to go and see them live in 2 days, which I cannot wait for. So yeah, when they're renovating the restaurant in episode 1, you hear that song Handshake Drugs, which is a great song. New Noise by Refused, which I played the guitar with from the start, returns a couple of times in this season, is almost the unofficial theme tune of The Bear now. Every time something is every time they're gearing up to do something big, that guitar riff tends to come in. It's pretty good. So here, it plays when they all return to the restaurant in episode 1. Sugar, Carmi and Sydney all return to the restaurant and agree that the bear has to be ready to open in 3 months. New Noise plays. It plays over the credits, and then it plays again when the kitchen prepares the meat for opening in episode 9. I really enjoyed this. In the episode where Marcus goes to Copenhagen, the song Holiday Road by Lindsey Buckingham plays. Holiday Road. Do you know that song?
No.
So that song is the theme tune to the movie National Lampoon's Vacation with Chevy Chase. Okay. And it's, I don't know, quite funny that they brought it in here to soundtrack Marcus going abroad. I really enjoyed that. There's a couple of songs by iconic punk band The Replacements featured in this. Bastards of Young, which is a great tune, is played when they're trying to time out they're trying to get the 5 seconds between the different stations. And then when Carmi and Claire finally kiss, they play Can't Hardly Wait, which is another great Replacements tune. I got really confused at the end of episode 6 because over the credits there's a Weezer song playing. And I recognised Rivers Cuomo's voice immediately, of course, but didn't know the song. And it's their cover of the Christmas song, which isn't one I've really listened to before, and is an odd choice, but I love it. One that you will agree is great, Taylor Swift's Love Story in episode 7.
Best scene. One of the best
Richie
scenes
driving
ever.
along, singing it as loud as he can because he's had a win and a success and he's happy.
Yeah.
And it obviously reminds him of his family.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then, the song plays over the closing credits. That is Rich's episode. There's a Nine Inch Nails song featured at the start of episode... I think it's episode 9. When Claire and Carmen are in bed together, we hear The Day the World Went Away, which is a good pick for that moment. There's a Pearl Jam song used again. It's over the scene where they're fixing the table. A song called Come Back. And I love that we get some Pearl Jam moments in this season and in this series. And unexpectedly, because a lot of the songs used in The Bear are like indie rock songs and punk songs, we get like a classic hard rock song, If You Want Blood by AC/DC, when the restaurant opens. Sydney says "Let It Rip," and then they play this AC/DC song.
Yeah.
And this is my favourite use of a song in the entire season, in episode 10, when it's all sort of kicking off again and getting quite stressful again, they bring back a Wilco song that was used in season 1, a song called Spider's Kid Smoke. It's a 10-minute long track that kind of ebbs and flows in ways that scenes in The Bear will ebb and flow. And in season 1, they used it in the one-shot episode as everything is kind of like getting more and more tense and intense, and this guitar riff from Wilco is playing. And again, in the final episode of this season, when things are getting a bit hectic in the kitchen, they're apologising to each other for yelling, and the fish is getting cold. This Wilco song comes back in, and it's a beautiful kind of loop back to the moment it was all going wrong in season 1. And once Richie takes over the service, they play Animal by Pearl Jam, which also featured in episode 2 of The Bear, which is a beautiful little cutback as well. Any songs that they used that stand out to you?
I think you said everything.
Yes,
I think music is very important.
Yeah.
It's not the music that I know, so for me, it's like I can see it is important, but I can't really pinpoint what song it is, but the music really fits well in this season, in this series.
And it's probably what makes that Taylor Swift moment so good, is it's so outside of what they normally do.
Yeah. And he knows the words, but not all of them, and it's so realistic, because sometimes it goes ba ba ba, it's just so good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because he wouldn't know all the words, would he? But he'd know enough.
No.
So that's The Bear. That's the Bear season 2. I love it so much. I really hope we get season 3. I think it's definitely genuinely one of the best shows ever made.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm going to watch the season 1 again and season 2 again, because it's so good. Because I finished everything. I finished Succession. I finished Summer Turned Pretty. I finished The Bear. Oh, I did watch an episode of the one about the jury duty thing.
Oh, you watched Jury Duty?
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
I can't handle it. I just can't handle it.
Why?
It's just too much. It's too cringy.
Oh, no, it's not. I don't think it's cringy at all. I think you should try another episode, because I think it's more beautiful how accepting he is of everything that's happening around him. And I think that you would really appreciate the direction they take it in towards the end of the season. I don't think it is cringy. It's not trying to be cringy.
Okay. I was just like, certain things. I was like, oh.
But it's not. It's never at his expense. Like, they never do anything at his expense, and they never make him look stupid.
Yeah.
No, I think you should try a bit more of it, because I think you would really. The direction it ends up going in is really sweet and nice. It's not kind of cringy and making fun of him at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'd like to know what you'd think of it if you try much more. And there's always the Silo.
Yeah, but it's on. What's the Silo
on Apple?
I don't have Apple.
Maybe it's worth getting Apple at some point for Severance and Silo, and there's a bunch of stuff on there that you might enjoy. Get rid of Netflix. Get Silo for a month.
No, I like Netflix.
But swap it out. Do a swap.
No. So how many buckets of bolognese would you give?
5 full buckets of bolognese sauce. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 full buckets of bolognese sauce. I would give it 5 buckets of omelette.
Oh, that sounds awful.
And crisps.
Omelettes and crisps in a bucket.
Yeah.
That's what they feed to pigs on farms.
You call him your pig?
I'm just saying.
Right.
Next week is going to be episode 122. Back to Culture Catch Up. And then after that, you can join us for our discussion of The Summer I Turned Pretty, a very different show.
Very different.
But equally Taylor Swift features there. So There'll be more discussion of her.
That's the important thing.
This is sort of slowly turning into a Taylor Swift podcast in a lot of ways.
It is. Maybe. Yeah.
Oh, and next week you can hear the second edition of our new feature, Quizzing It Old School. Alex is going to quiz me on something.
Something that you're an expert on, which is pretty much everything.
Not true. Okay.
Cool.
Join us then for that. Please go and rate and review us and talk to us. Go and follow our link tree in the show notes for links to everything, including the options bar of coffee. And we'll see you next time. We love you very much.
Thank you. Bye.